What's up, watchers? Will here with another Cloverfield Paradox video, and today we're talking about the original script for the film God Particle by Oren Uziel. The movie before it got turned into what we know now as Cloverfield Paradox. Hopefully this summary doesn't take too long, so let's get right into it. We start with the crew of the Dandelion Station, a group of Americans stationed up there to use the Higgs boson in a test of a hadron super collider that will potentially find a way to connect quantum mechanics and general relativity so that man can gain an understanding of how the two are united through the particle accelerator. The crew consists of, as described in the script, Ava Hamilton, 30s, an engineer, and a woman, usually but not always in that order. Evan Keel, 30s, strong and confident, exactly the guy you'd peg to get laid on a space station with one female resident. And yes, they are sleeping together here. Mika Flynn, early 30s, reed and boyish. Chris Kundalini, aka Monk, late 30s, a pious man with eyes that have seen it all and found it rather disappointing. Benny Martinez, 40s, clean cut and serious. Maddox Cosby, 40s, a sharp-nosed physicist with a take-no-prisoners, makes-no-friends attitude that has never won him any popularity contests. And Bert Mundy, 30s, with shaggy hair tucked beneath a Cubs hat. So, after being introduced to our American leads, for the movie you'll see some differences right off the back, with there being a lot of characters who weren't originally there. Anyways, the script gives us some exposition that helps establish the characters' dynamics, what the particle accelerator hopes to accomplish, and also informs us that in this world, America is actually at war with Europe during the course of the film. Also, there's a golden retriever named Duke who lives on the station. So we finally get to the activation of the Higgs boson-based accelerator, which is contained on a separate area of the station that they have to travel to via a ski lift type of cable. The collider turns on, and in a bright flash of light and noise and a shift in gravity, Flynn ends up unfortunately going blind as everyone and everything is jostled about the station. He also claims that he saw everything: creation, reality, the universe, all of it. At the same time, he saw the Earth and Moon vanish, and this is the precise moment when everyone goes into panic mode. They think their little test may have actually destroyed the planet. Monk says God did this. Tension rises high and the crew actually starts fighting with one another up until Hamilton snaps at them and breaks down at their apparent demise. We see a montage from about a month or so later, and after literally scanning the universe a couple times over, they concede that they will have to live out the rest of their lives on the station. Lucky for them, it's a self-sustaining one as it has renewable food supply and is in itself solar powered. Another fight almost breaks out, but this time Monk breaks it up with beliefs about them being overlooked by God's wrath. We also learn that Hamilton seems to have a family on Earth, or did, till it vanished. Suddenly, everyone is called to the main deck to discover another ship on the horizon and trying to make contact. A European space shuttle known as the Lily. Considering America is, or was, at war with Europe, their contact does not bode well and they vote on it. The democratic method deciding that, yes, they will aid the Europeans with some supplies and food, despite only having enough to help 9 people total, and the Europeans bring their 4 to the American 7, putting them 2 over the max. Here we meet the Europeans described as follows: Philip Tam, 40s, Chinese, lanky, serious. Camille Giraud, 30s, the French beauty. Ernst Schmidt, 40s, a Werner Herzogian astrophysicist. Rude Wibble, 30s, a handsome doctor with a short haircut and glasses. So, initially, Tam was a man. Who would have thunk it? Each member of the Lily speaking with an accent from their respective country. What follows is a pretty heartwarming moment of the Americans and Europeans putting aside their differences to get along with one another and enjoy a meal. This is all cut short as after Monk blesses the food, Duke, the dog, ends up vomiting and dying. Keel also follows suit, his final words being him calling out for Hamilton, both appearing to die of some sort of poisoning. So of course the Americans get suspicious and lock the Europeans in one of the recovery rooms, of which they willingly decide to oblige, while the rest of the Americans have to figure out what to do next. They try to put the squeeze on Tam, but to no avail, so the team ends up letting the corpses drift into the black starry void of space. The crew of the Dandelion breaks up for the night, trying to decide what to do next and realizing that at least Keel wasn't poisoned by cyanide. They check on Mundy. Playing blaring loud rock music from his quarters, they discover him barely cohesive and covered in blood before he slumps over dead. So, our 5 surviving crew members are trying to figure out just what the hell is happening. Martinez reveals that him and Cosby are military and that the purpose of testing the particle accelerator was to see if it could potentially be used as a weapon against the Europeans. We know what happened when we split an atom, so they wanted to see what happens once you've split the Higgs boson, a subatomic particle. We also learned that if the weapon was a success, that the 2 would have been ordered to kill off the rest of the Dandelion crew. It's that top secret. Not even the president knew it was being tested. Oddly enough, Cosby ends up being pushed into the containment room and subdued by the Europeans, who Hamilton releases because, at the moment, she trusts them a little bit more than she trusts Cosby. Cosby, while bound up in the room, does manage to warn Hamilton to be wary of their new guest on the station. Martinez is forced to lead Hamilton to his room and reveal that he had a gun with him that she takes. Hamilton and Martinez catch Weibel and Schmidt taking notes on the schematics of the particle accelerator, but they excuse it by saying that they thought it may have leads to figure out what happened to Earth, even though they were supposed to be heading back towards the Lily station. Martinez revealing him and Cosby added some false positives into the formula schematics on the off chance that the Europeans are less than friendly. We end up getting a standoff between the 2 crews as Hamilton reveals she has Martinez's gun, but Cosby's has strangely gone missing, and, for the safety of both, they decide to sleep on their respective vessels, to which the Europeans reluctantly agree. Hamilton reminiscing over her family when Martinez tries to kind of make a move on her, to which he is greeted with a crack in the jaw from the butt of his own gun, Martinez turning the table on her until he discovers the family photos. We learn that Hamilton's family was already dead before the planet vanished, possibly being casualties of war. We cut to Flynn, still very blind, trying to maneuver his way to the room where Cosby is secured, but his disability doesn't inform him of what we, the viewer, now know. A masked assailant with a knife in hand pressed against Cosby's neck. The blade moving to his throat and keeping him silent until Cosby utters a run before being swiftly killed. Flynn books it down the hallway being chased by the murderer and manages to sneak into a nearby room. The murderer follows suit and manages to find Flynn despite all the lights being busted out by Flynn. But upon the revelation of Flynn, we discover that he has Cosby's gun and unloads every shot he can into the individual's body. Flynn escapes and gets back in contact with the remaining members of the crew, leading them to the dead bodies of Cosby and the murderer, who is revealed to be nobody. But this guy was armed to the teeth with weapons, and our American survivors realized that there were more than 4 people on that ship. In trying to break down the situation, Flynn is killed by a shot to the head, breaking the remaining 3 into a frenzy. The Europeans have returned, and they're out for blood. The Americans manage to escape in a floor area underneath the pool on the station. They try to figure out a plan in the brief moment they have while the Europeans try to catch up with them, when Hamilton lets out that she saw Mars. They realize that there is hope. They discover what happened was when they split the Higgs boson, it generated enough strength to warp space-time and put them on another side of the sun, making them invisible to the remainder of the solar system for months. Monk's faith in God is restored as Martinez tries to plan for how they will escape and stop the Europeans, who of which they realized were deployed as soon as the boson bomb was activated, so they decide they have to destroy or deactivate the bomb. What follows is a chase where the Americans set up a bomb as a distraction for the Europeans while they run off to go get the actual boson bomb. The Europeans follow them up the chairlift to where the bomb is, and Martinez and company are trying to shut off the bomb. The Europeans catch up with them and take fire, for it only to be revealed that it was merely a ruse. The suits that were by Martinez were empty, and Hamilton and Monk had actually snuck onto the Lily station to try and separate it from the Dandelion. Realizing they've been had and did not have enough time to stop Martinez, he ends up dying shutting it down. The Europeans have to try and make it back to their ship and kill the surviving Americans. Things go south as the ship starts separating, wherein Giraud tries to make a leap to the Lily but just barely misses. Schmidt tries a similar tactic, but a still barely alive Martinez clips their 2 suits together so the 3 end up floating into the infinity that is space. It seeming like the Europeans that tried to escape the Dandelion never truly made it back to their ship. The script is about to come to a close when Hamilton and Monk, both only engineers, realize they don't know how to fly the ship. They're screwed until they discover a surviving European, a Spaniard. Sadly, they don't speak Spanish, but as he begs for his life, they realize that he's actually a pilot. So our story ends with the Lily, housing Hamilton, Monk, and a Spaniard, fires its engines as they go home. So, as you can tell, this is very different from the final product. There was no dimensional rift, the God particles of Tidal actually plays a very significant role. The war that is discussed is not with the Russians and the Chinese, rather it's with Europe itself. We also have a much larger cast, and the plot itself gives us what I would believe is a little bit more tension. Even the ship names are different. Honestly, I'm curious as to how this movie would have turned out had they stayed with this original script, as it actually isn't that bad. There are moments that are kind of funny, there are moments of tension. All around, it's pretty solid. But tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Do you prefer God Particle to Cloverfield Paradox? While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and consider checking out our Patreon and website for more content. I'm Will, and I'll see you next time.